G'day guys, how are we? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, April 10th, 2023. It is Easter Monday, of course. I hope everyone out there, all you guys and girls, had a fantastic weekend, a long weekend. And if you are religious, then, of that persuasion, then I hope you had a magnificent weekend. And these days you can't celebrate too much with religion and stuff, but all you people that believe in that stuff, then hope you had a great weekend. Uh, big show as always, guys. Not so much on the Aussie circuit, I will say. Not a lot happening, but fair bit going on internationally. So we'll cover that. We've got what have we got? We've got Shakur Stevenson. We've got Brian Mendoza, big win over Sebastian Fundora. A little bit about the undercard. Josh Taylor, Teofimo Lopez, Davis Garcia is 2 weeks away. Anthony Joshua, December return now. What's going on there? And maybe Fury Ruiz might be on the cards as well. And of course, maybe Canelo Bivol. The weight's been discussed about the next September fight with those guys. So we'll see what happens there. We get a chance. We'll go through the box rec. A little bit going on this weekend with the Aussie scene and also the world rankings as well. Carl, how are you, mate? What do we got there? I'll just bring you up if I can. Can I bring you up there? I'm not sure. Not letting me bring you up there for some reason. We'll have a look and see what. Oh, there we go. Help if I sort of knew what I was doing. G'day, Lynden. Towering Inferno has been extinguished. Well, he has, Carl. Well, that's the other thing we'll get to. That I didn't mention at the start, of course, is that this is your show. Anything that you want to discuss, we will talk about. I've got my agenda as always, and but as I said, this is your show, and I really want to hear what you guys want to talk about. So much going on. As I said, Davis Garcia. One thing I want to discuss about that is we're 2 weeks away, and is it just me or we haven't heard a lot about the fight? I'm not quite sure. Is it just me who hasn't really been tuned in a lot? I do scour all the sites. Haven't really seen a lot of Garcia and Davis. Maybe it's going to sell. That well, they don't really need to sell it. I don't know, but I don't know about you guys. I thought I might get a comment on that. Big J, great shirt. Yeah, well, you got to be able to hang a bit of shit every now and then, don't you? Old Trump copped it for 4 years, so I'm sure Joe Biden can cop a little bit there. So just in honor of what's the UFC guy on the weekend? Is it Jorge Masvidal or whatever his name? I'm not a big UFC fan, obviously. But I did see that he got the chant going. So you got to have a bit of fun out there, don't you? Geez, we're in the world at the moment. You can't joke or hang shit on anyone. Well, I'm sure all Trump supporters copped it for 4 years, and now it's the other way around. But anyway, just having a bit of fun there, Big J. Glad you like the shirt anyway, mate. Jules H, evening all. Hope you've got Harry Garside at the top of your agenda tonight. Now, fill me in, Jules. I've checked all the sites literally 10 minutes ago. I didn't see. Oh, okay. Are you talking about maybe the three options he's given himself? I hope you have, and nothing's happened in the last 5 or 10 minutes since I've been on air, but he has been discussing a little bit. If you are watching from overseas or you just don't watch free-to-air TV, he is in the jungle at the moment with the celeb Get Me Out of Here show, and has had a little bit to say. And who knows what goes on in Harry's head. But I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, Jules. If not, I am 40 seconds behind, in front. You guys are 40 seconds behind. So if you do comment, I'll come back to you. But I want to hear about that, Jules, because unless you're alluding to his comments that he's got to make a decision in the next sort of few months, I suppose, which way he's going to go, then I'm not quite sure that there, mate. What, BJ? Hanson, son of a bitch, child my line. Keep bantering amongst yourselves there, boys. It's all in good fun. As I said, you've got to be able to have a bit of fun these days. It just seems to be in the world we're living at the moment. Can't offend someone. You can't look the wrong way without offending someone. So this is my show, and I'm going to do what I want, and you guys can have your say. Let's hope that YouTube don't ban me over the shirt, but it's all in jest. Andy, how are you, mate? Congrats, Mendoza. The lumberjack, yes, chop that tall tree down. Let's start on that then, guys, because that seems to be a common theme for tonight. Now, I was surprised at all you guys out there that he lost to Mendoza, but I must admit I wasn't surprised at all that he lost. Now, he's been playing with fire a little bit in his last few fights, especially in his last fight. I just thought that he was in the pocket too much. He wasn't really moving. He was trying to trade with these guys. Now, I don't understand when you're that tall and you've got that reach, why you would decide to, or more importantly, your corner would be telling you to stand with these guys. And Mendoza on the weekend, I mean, he was a big puncher. I know, look, he's probably been a fringe contender for the last few years. Good fighter, and he can punch. But why would you stand in the pocket with a guy like him, regardless of what he's done, where he's ranking in the scheme of things at the moment? Why would you trade with Mendoza or anyone else, for that matter, that can punch and is strong and likes to let him go? And I was surprised he actually didn't finish a little bit earlier, because he was catching Fundora with a lot of big punches. But surely his corner would have been saying, Sebastian, you need to use your jab, you need to get on your toes, you need to move. I mean, at this time of the stoppage, he was in front. It was pretty much a shutout. He was in front 60-54 on 2 scorecards and 59-55 on the other scorecard. So he really was cruising along. He didn't need to stand there and trade. But what a knockout it was. I'll keep the comments coming there. I just don't want to lose track there of your comments there, guys. But I'm just going to continue on this for a little bit. But wasn't it a beautiful knockout? And if you watch it carefully, it was a little feint to the body with a jab, and then he turned it into the left hook and just caught him cold. And he just froze in time. And when they do that, all you can do is do this, because you don't know what's going to happen. And unfortunately, the referee couldn't get there in time, and then it was that big overhand right, followed by, I think, another left hook on his way down. It was a beautiful knockout, clean knockout. Fundora, there has been a few comments of what the hell was he doing, just sitting there pretty much smiling at the referee. But when you're in that situation, he's the canaries would have been going around his head. He wouldn't really know what was going on. He would have probably been on autopilot by that stage after that knockout. It would have been just his instincts kicking in to sort of look at the referee and smile. But beautiful knockout by Mendoza. So where does that leave our man Tim Tszyu? Well, obviously we know what's next for him, but does Charlo pull a bit of a Swifty and try and sort of muscle Tszyu out so that Mendoza maybe gets a shot? I still think Mendoza's a hell of a lot easier than what Tim Tszyu would be. So does that open the door for him to maybe create some politics and change the opponent? I suppose we'll see. What have we got there? I'll go back to you in a minute, Jules, about Harry. Just sort of flick through the comments here. Yeah, all right. I'll keep coming back there, guys. I hope I don't miss any. Yep, Big J, you agree, mate. Saw that Fundora loss coming 6 fights ago. Too tall and doesn't use his reach. Well, it's always going to happen. Now, I know he probably likes to prove himself. He's got a little bit of, I think, the Mexican background. And Mexicans, of course, they only know one way, and that's to be a warrior. And that's why we love Mexican fighters. But when you're that tall with that reach, I don't care whether you're Mexican or American or Chinese. I really don't care. With those assets you've got and the advantages that you've got, I'm just staggered why he, as I said before, whether his corner would tell him to do that or he would choose to do that. I am hoping that he's choosing to do that. Now, the fact, if his corner can't get him to do the opposite, basically, and use his reach and stay on the outside, or they're telling him to stay on the inside, then either way, I think Fundora needs a new team, because bad advice. And as I said before, the last fight he played with fire. He got caught with some big bombs, of course. He ended up winning quite comfortably, but that was, I remember looking at that fight thinking, geez, I hope he doesn't do that against either a well-credentialed fighter or a banger. And he's done it, and he's paid the price. Took it in his stride, I will say. Probably no other way he could probably take it, of course, because he got knocked out, of course. But look, he's a really nice young guy. I hope he comes back. What do you think about going forward with Fundora, though? There's been a lot of chat I see today on some of the sites out there. Does this almost break the seal a little bit as far as the jaw? Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's probably a boxing term that once you get knocked out like that, it's very, it's not easier. Well, it's not easy to get knocked out, but easier, and your resistance to big punches change. So, I don't know. You look back in history and fighters like that have been knocked out in that way, in that fashion. A lot of fighters have been stopped, and we know that, or had shock knockdowns, or even better, been caught cold. That's happened. They can come back. But when you're actually in the 7th round, I think it was the 7th round, wasn't it? What have we got there? Yeah, 7th round. And you're fatigued and you've caught big punches, and then you get knocked out that way. That can have lasting effects. Now, I hope that's not the case. But I just worry going forward whether we could see maybe another Tommy Hearn situation. The first fight with Leonard probably wasn't that way. It was more of an accumulation of punches and exhaustion and everything else. But, the Hagler knockout and then the Iran Barkley knockout, the amount of times Tommy Hearns was rocked after that was pretty much every fight. James Kinchin almost knocked him out as well. So I hope we don't see that with Sebastian Funfor. He's only a young guy, so let's hope he comes back and gets back on the horse. But geez, as I said, I'd be changing trainers if I was him in the meantime, or at least saying to his team, what are we doing here? Because it's just bad advice. Still on the light middleweights, and speaking of Tim Tszyu from Carl, hey Lynden, is there any truth to Tim Tszyu versus Liam Smith? Batman Boxing mentioned it last week, and I've heard they're in talks. Great matchup in my opinion. I have heard whispers, Carl, but nothing really worth, I suppose, coming on here and discussing. Just a lot of chatter out there. Wouldn't surprise me, though, at all. We did, probably raise the eyebrows when Tim decided to fight Tony Harrison in his last fight. I think this is a good fight. Great matchup. And look, I think Tim Tszyu wins this fight handily as well. But look, another really, really good fight. And Liam Smith's obviously no slouch, former world champion. Gave Canelo an okay fight, of course, beat Eubank. And look, he's a really, really good fighter. But I think he really suits Tim Tszyu as far as styles goes. He's not, contrary to what happened in the Eubank fight, I don't think he's a big puncher at all. He's not overly fast. Can be cut down with body shots, as we saw with Canelo. I think Tim Tszyu, really good name on his resume, really good test for Tim, but I think Tim wins that fight quite comfortably, and I would have no issue if I was in Tim's team for taking that fight. And it probably makes sense, doesn't it? Because I know Liam Smith, what did he fight? Probably, was it 3 or 4 weeks before Tim's last fight? So it makes sense. I'd like to see that, Carl. But yeah, as I said, I've heard whispers, but nothing, as I said, worth coming on here and talking about. Let's hope that's the case. It'd be a great fight. Stephen is there. How are you, Stephen? Nice to see you. Nice to see you on the show here, mate. All right. Now, is that you too, Batman? Carl, apparently Ben Shalom has approached Tim Tszyu's team asking. Tim Tszyu said they would be willing to go overseas for it. Well, that's surprising. Tim most likely will want to fight in the UK at some point. I reckon he will, Batman, but I'm not sure whether it's this fight. Because let's face it, it's like if you're say a football team. You go and play at someone's opposition home ground, they immediately, the odds change. The odds get closer. And that's why you always, if you're betting on football or whatever, the home side probably wins sort of 80% or 75, 80% of the time. So I would think that Tim is this close to fighting for the world title against Charlo. Looks like it'll be August or September. I'm not sure why he would want to give up any advantage at all right here and now. And I would say if it's anyone, the opponents that are being talked about, I would be staggered if they did it overseas, unless it was maybe in the States. I couldn't see him going to fight an English fighter in England or the UK. I could not see that at all. It just doesn't make sense. However, if it's not Liam Smith and Tim beats Charlo and he wants to defend against Liam Smith, by all means, go out and do the world tour. But he's so close at the moment. I just don't understand why you would contemplate giving up any edge or any advantage at all. So I would doubt that would be in the UK for the next fight, Batman. But I did say that I'd be surprised if he fought Tony Harrison, and they did that as well. Maybe Tim might see it as another challenge. We'll go over there and we'll beat an Englishman in his home country. I don't know, but we'll see. Yeah, the finish was brutal, Batman. That was the Fundora one. It just did it so well. As I said, jab to the body and just turned it into the hook. He didn't even see it coming. He would have been out on his feet right there and then. The referee wasn't quite quick enough to get in there, and that big right hand and then the sort of glancing left hook as he went down. Just beautiful. That's what I know. It's probably, if you're not a boxing fan, you'd be horrified by that, but it was a beautiful knockout, if that can be said. Fundora was always going to go out like that. Seen him hurting down quite a few times. Yeah, well, Batman, wouldn't you think that him and his team would look at that and go, well, you know what, we've come out, we've been lucky a few times. Why are we going to run the gauntlet and trade with a guy that's almost a foot shorter than you and probably has, 6-10 inches less in reach than you? Why would you stand there and just give the advantage back to him? I don't understand it. So maybe his corner are telling him to box at long range and he's refusing to do it. He wants to prove his machiness or whatever you want to call it, masculinity. I don't know. But either way, he's learnt the hard way, and he's been knocked out, and hopefully it doesn't have a long-lasting effect. Still with Batman there. This is in response to Carl. I really like the fight. Got Zoo, but Smith is a good name for Zoo to keep moving forward. Yep. As I said, Batman, I really think that I'd have no drama. As long as the fight's in Australia, I think it's a great fight for Tim Zoo with Liam Smith. The timing works out well. I know. I was just going to say that it was talk that Liam Smith was going to fight Eubank in a rematch, but now it looks like he's going to fight Conor Benn. Who knows where that's going to go, so we'll see. But I like the fight. I really do. I think if it's in Australia, Liam Smith, good name, good resume. I think he would be an awesome fight for Tim Zoo to fight in Australia early June, I think they're talking about. So we'll see. Carl, back to Fundora. People saying Fundora beats Tim have gone MIA at the moment. I was going to actually say that, Carl. It's gone, all those people out there saying that was a bad fight for Tim have gone awfully quiet. Hasn't been a lot said about it out there. Now, of course, they're all probably defending Fundora that, it was a lucky punch and all the rest of it. He was winning by a shutout. But I don't think Tim would have done that to Fundora, but I just think he would have beaten him hands down by just giving him a beat down. I really do. I just think that the style-wise, especially Fundora stood in front of Tim, would have been a lot harder, of course, if he was on the back foot. But as we said on here, that's not his style. And I just think if he had tried to fight Tim in the pocket, he just would have been cut to pieces and probably stopped. Not sure he would have been knocked out like that, but I think he would have been chopped down in 6 or 7 rounds. Yeah, brutal. Batman says, Andy, Carl again, mate. I noticed he wasn't doing anything in the pocket. He was open for the hook all night. Yeah, well, that's another great point. It's one thing to stand in the pocket, but if you're not actually doing anything in the pocket, and if you don't know what we're talking about here in the pocket, guys, it pretty much means standing in with a big target on your head. You're not really doing anything about it. You're in the prime zone to be punched, basically, in the pocket. And he did it. It's one thing sometimes you'll get a lot of really elite fighters like a Pacquiao or a Alvarez or Mayweather, Duran, all these great fighters from past and present. They'll stand in the pocket to entice you. It's a bit of bait out there for it, and then they make you pay. Fundora's not obviously like any of those fighters, so he was always going to be up against it and just playing with fire. And as they say, you play with matches, you get burned, and he got burned big time. So let's see whether he can come back. Jules, while we're going, mate, you had a comment before about Harry. Where is it? I'll go back to that so I don't forget. We're jumping all over here at the place here, guys. So I don't want to lose. I don't want to forget about this one. Harry talking to the jungle about potentially giving the sport away. Yeah, well, he is, mate. So we'll see what happens there. I'll talk about that in a sec. We'll just keep going through these comments here. Again, on you, Jules. I'll get back to the Harry comment once we've finished on this one. Fundora handled the loss really well. Might be the L that he needed to go on the bigger and better things. Still think he's very dangerous at 154. Jules, he's dangerous if he changes the way he fights. Look, he's not a big puncher. He's not a killer. Like, that's what Tommy Hearns, probably, I mentioned him earlier, he's probably a really good one to compare to because, as I said before, he had the height, he had the reach, but what he did have, he had that beautiful big right hand. Tommy Hearns was, like, the name Hitman for him was a perfect nickname because he hit you and you stay hit, and you were out. And the amount of guys he knocked out cold, especially, from welterweight to sort of super welterweight, he did some major damage. Fundora's, he hasn't got the skill of Tommy Hearns. He hasn't got the power of Tommy Hearns. So it just doesn't make sense to do that. And even with Tommy Hearns, even when he did want to engage with you, he still kept you at the end of a really good jab. He would stand with you, but he kept the jab there to set up the right hand. Fundora just pretty much leans in, puts the right shoulder in, and he's just waiting to get hit. And it was either going to be an uppercut or a hook, and obviously it was the hook that caught him cold. So we'll see, Jules, whether he can come back from this. I hope he can. You never want to see any young, talented fighter like Fundora go by the wayside. But I don't know, that type of knockout, I've seen some really good fighters over the years just not be able to come back. So we'll see. And I'll get back to Harry once we're finished on this subject. Jules will make that the next one off the rank. And he says, I'll say this, so if Fundora wants to return to the perch, his best rematch or long crawl back. I'd be staggered, Andy. Well, actually, no, probably wouldn't. I was going to say I'd be staggered if he wanted to rematch Mendoza, especially straight away. I think the best business decision with Fundora will be to get maybe 2 or 3 soft wins under his belt over the next 12 months, and then maybe look at Mendoza. Look, judging by the scores, it was a shutout, so there's no doubt he can beat Mendoza. But I would say take him back 2 or 3 fights over the next 12 months. Get him a couple of, I won't say easy kills, but durable guys who aren't big punchers. You know, good resume or okayish resume, solid fighters, but not big punchers who we can actually practice what we've been discussing. Long range, keep them at a distance, maybe try and take him out a left hook or a left uppercut, whatever it might be. But try and get into that and then take Mendoza on. It doesn't make sense for me to fight him in a rematch. But strange days these days. People just want to, not the best business decisions. It's all about the dollar. So we'll see. But I wouldn't be surprised if Mendoza maybe gets the winner of Charlo and Zoo, but we'll see. Batman. Fundora probably moving up to 160. They'll blame the weight. Yeah, well, from what I saw, Batman, I don't think they've ever said that he has a lot of trouble making super welterweight, which is staggering considering he's 6'3", 6'4", whatever the hell he is. Might even be taller. He's a big guy, and I've actually stood beside him last year at the Hall of Fame in Canastota, and he is huge. Considering I used to fight division below that myself when I was fighting, and he's probably at least a foot taller than me. Just crazy. Well, I say a foot, around, you know what I mean. But he's a lot. I was looking up at him like that. He's a monster. But maybe that's what they've got to do, Batman. Maybe what they've got to do is say, okay, let's go to 160, if not even 168. Put the meat on the bones, on the frame, I suppose, and try and build him up to be bigger and stronger. And maybe that might be the angle for him, because maybe he does cut away a little bit hard. I don't know. As I said, I don't think it's the case from what I've heard and seen. But maybe they will do that and move him up and just fill him out a little bit. Easier said than done, though, because, of course, does the power, and he's not a big puncher at super welterweight. So does that make him even more vulnerable as he moves up in weight? Maybe so. Both with his punches and his resistance to punches. So anyway, we'll see what happens there, mate. Jay Brown, how are you, mate? Welcome to the show. Fundora needs to go up a weight. He almost looked unhealthy. His legs looked like he was on stilts. Yeah, well, as the fight went on there, Jay, look, I did say before it was a shutout. Only one of the judges gave him 1 round. The other 2 had a shutout. He did. I mean, he look, maybe he was fatigued or whatever, but look, when you've got 24 hours plus to rehydrate, I'm not quite sure it has the same effect as years gone by when you would weigh in on the day of the fight. I'm glad we don't do that anymore. But look, I don't know. Every fight is different, but I remember when I was fighting, we used to weigh in on the morning of the fight, and by the time that night came or that afternoon, I was fully rehydrated, ready to go, and I'd lose 6 or 7 kilos making weight. Fundora, I don't know. Would they weigh in at probably lunchtime the day before? He probably didn't fight till 9 o'clock that night, the following night. So it's a long time in between. I'm not quite sure the weight would have been a major factor. Who knows? Maybe he was focused too much on weight in the lead up and maybe went away a little bit from the technique and was maybe too worried about making weight and didn't focus on the skills. Who knows? Lots of variables that come into it. But I don't think making weight a day and a half beforehand would have been a massive issue, Jay. Who knows? But every fighter's different. Some fighters, as you've probably seen, do struggle to come up the following night. Others, it's no drama. I mean, you look at Canelo, when he was at, say, I remember him at super welterweight, he would lose a shitload of weight, and then it was like Superman the night before, and it wouldn't affect him at all. But maybe taller fighters struggle a bit more. Who knows? Only those guys know that, Jay, but it's not a bad point. Mate, Big J, Fundora must move up to at least 175, if not 200 pounds. Well, as they say, mate, that's a bold statement, 175. Look, I'm sure he'd carry it okay, but as I said before, mate, do you think his resistance to punches would go with it, and would his power go with it? Maybe it would. Maybe if he's bigger and stronger, maybe he's got more power, and being a lot more stronger making the weight, maybe his resistance to punches would go with it. I mean, end of the day, you're right. He could probably be a heavyweight and probably wouldn't lose any sleep doing it. So, yeah, I'm with you, though. I think sometimes it's got to come down to not necessarily what weight you can make. It's what weight you feel more comfortable at and you have the best chance of winning. And a good example of that is you look at guys like Pacquiao and Mayweather, and in some instances, I suppose you could say Canelo's in the same boat. Well, these guys could probably fight a division, or if not, sometimes two divisions below what they do. But I know that these are older guys, by the way, especially Mayweather and Pacquiao. But later on in their careers, they fought at welterweight. This is Mayweather and Pacquiao I'm talking about. Both of them, Mayweather could have probably easily made 140. Pacquiao, who knows, could have even made 135. But they chose to fight at 147 and even up to 154, but mainly at 154 where they felt strong. They didn't have to worry about weight at all, and it was a matter of training smarter, not harder. So maybe Fundora's going to have to be in the same boat where he says, look, you know what, I can make light middleweight or super welterweight, but I'm finding that I'm not strong. I'm not, mentally there. I'm struggling a little bit, and maybe to go up to why 160 when you go to 168, if not 175? So, as I said, Big J, only Fundora and his team knows how much it affects him. But I think you've got to make the call at some stage to say what weight is going to be best for me, not necessarily what weight I can make, if that makes sense. He needs a feed for sure, says Carl. Yep, I agree. Andy, maybe KO might make gun shy Fundora use that reach. Yeah, well, that's what I said, Andy. It can do all sorts of things to you. It might make him gun shy. Look, it will probably be a good thing for him when you think about it, to make him a little gun shy, where he would be actually forced to use his reach and height. Just doesn't make sense for me. Again, I know I've said it 10 times tonight. To stand in the pocket and trade with a known puncher just does not make sense when you're, this much taller than him. And I remember looking at the Wayne in the press conference. He says, "Holy shit! How's this Mendoza even going to reach him, let alone hit him?" Well, he made it easy. He stood right in front of him, and not just stood in front of him, was like close to him, like physically in close. As I said before with Tommy Hearns, he would fight you in close, but still at a reasonable distance. Fundora right on each other's chest did not make sense. Old mate Big J again, same situation with the Fundora as Jarvis. That Para loss is the beginning of the end for Jarvis. Yeah, it's an interesting observation there, Big J, and I suppose we're not going to know. I mean, you look at his last fight, Brock, that opponent, I know we discussed it on here, that opponent was not meant to offer a lot of resistance to Brock, from what I've heard, and at the end of the day, Brock was very, very lucky to get out of that. And I just worry. I mean, for all you guys out there that aren't AFL fans, I know there's a lot, but the AFL over the weekend, here's an example for you. A player for the Sydney Swans, Paddy McCartan. So if you're in a state or overseas, you're not really going to know much about the game. It's not really about that. It's about what happened. He's had 9 concussions over the years playing AFL. He was a forward. He used to get, he knocked out or whatever. So 9 concussions. On the weekend, got to the point where he was actually tackling someone else, and he must have slipped, and his head's gone down and hit the ground. It wasn't hard. He just simply landed face first on the grass and knocked himself out, to the point where they got him up, and he looked like Fundora on the weekend worse. He was rubber-legged. They had to hold him up. And this is a guy that wasn't actually cleaned up. He was doing the tackling and simply slipped, and his head hit the ground, and it wasn't hard at all. And he was out like a light, had no recollection, and it looks like his career might be over with 10 bad concussions. So that's the effect that it can have. Now, that's football, where the aim is not to punch someone in the face. This, as we all know, we saw it on the weekend with Fundora, this is a very unforgiving sport, and anything can happen, knockouts, and that's what I fear for Brock, that knockout from Para. Even though it was cold, it's a little bit different. As I said before, a cold knockout in the first round is a lot different to a knockout in the 7th, 8th, 9th round, where your body might be starting to feel the effects of the fight so far. This one's just a cold. But I'm with you, Big J. Even though Jarvis's knockout was probably the good knockout, I suppose you call it, where it's nice and quick and over early without your body taking a lot of effect, that is scary when you've got an opponent that's not a known puncher, has been brought in really to make you, to get a win under your belt, and almost had Brock out a couple of times in that fight. So, I mean, we take our hat off to Brock for getting through that. Shows, a lot of heart, but at what point do you say that heart's not the smart way to go? Look, I've promoted Brock a couple of times. He's a great young guy, great family. Of course, we all love Jeff. I do not want to see this guy go through what he's gone in his last few fights, not the last one or two. Remember, we had the one in the States as well. I've got the utmost faith in Jeff Fennick that and his team that they will hopefully make some changes, and maybe they were, trying to do that with Brock. Obviously, didn't work because he got nailed. But I've got faith that Jeff, after having been through all that himself, that they'll try and tweak a few things in Brock's style. I hope they do, because I do not want to see Brock end up, like some of the guys are, where they just get nailed with just a half decent shot, and they either get knocked out or rocked. I don't want to see it, especially in boxing. Football is probably a little bit different. Boxing, I know so many guys I used to fight with back in the day, or knew of, that I know now slur the words. Sometimes you can almost see the canaries going around the head. It's sad. It really is sad. So I hope that boxing might change the way that the football codes have now with the AFL, rugby league, and all those. I'm sure it's the same in American football and everything else, where the protocols have got to be a little bit better. And maybe especially with a sport like boxing, got to be some more thorough tests and more time out of the ring, and maybe 30 days is not enough. If you get knocked out, maybe like Brock did against Paro, maybe it's got to be 3 months or 6 months. I don't know. But I would hope, with all the class actions going on around the world at the moment in all the sports, not to mention the athletes themselves, I hope that we can just improve a little bit in that area. But you don't want to see it. And as I said, boxing, unlike a lot of the other sports out there, the aim of boxing is to knock somebody out, in the pros anyway. Not all the time, but most of the time you want to see the knockouts. So that's what makes it scary, and which is why we have to be even more on it. So we'll see what happens. Team Batman Boxing again. I hope I haven't missed any comments here, guys. If I have, I'll try and go back. Definitely got Zoo. This is against Liam Smith, I'm gathering. But Smith did surprise me against Eubank, and I've always liked both guys, but was completely shocked with Smith taking out Eubank like that in round 4. That was 100-1 odds. I wasn't overly surprised that he won, Batman. I was surprised that he stopped Eubank, I will say. I thought Eubank would win, but I wasn't overly surprised. But I just think Eubank's gone backwards. I think whatever prime he had, it's gone. I think it was a bad mistake taking on Roy Jones Jr. as his trainer. We all love Roy Jones Jr. He's one of the GOATs in our sport. But from what I've seen in Eubank, I don't know whether he was doing it himself or whether Roy Jones Jr. was the one trying to do it, but he was trying to be Roy Jones Jr. And I've said it a few times in this show before, never try and be somebody else. Yes, take aspects of the way they went about it, the way their style, or how they trained or whatever. Just take aspects of different fighters or different athletes or business people or politicians, whoever it might want to be, but don't try and be them. And that's what I reckon in Eubank's case he's tried to do with Roy Jones Jr. He's tried to be Roy Jones Jr. and he's not. And he paid the price in the Liam Smith fight. But I think, as I said, whatever little prime that he had, I think he's wasted it. And I don't see a way back. I really don't. And we'll see what happens there. Look, Conor Benn fight might be a good one for him. Might be a cash-out fight. But I can't see him. He might even come back and beat Liam Smith. But if Liam Smith's got the choice between two, well, I know I'd be going to fight Tim Tszyu if I was Liam Smith, because you know what happens if he can get that win. So we'll see. Smith's got options. This is Liam Smith, Tszyu at super welterweight, Eubank rematch, or Janibek for the WBO middleweight title. I'm not sure that's... actually, I think he is ranked number 2, isn't he? 1 or 2, isn't he, Andy, I think? So, look, he's got options. I don't think he should be fighting at middleweight, to be honest. I think he's more of a super welterweight. I'm not quite sure if he's been struggling to make weight, but he's not a big guy. As I've said on here a few times, I met him when I was in Vegas. I've stood beside him. He's not a big guy. So I can't see how he would not make super welterweight. So I would think if I was him, I'd be staying at super welterweight, because there's some big fights there for him, whether it be Tszyu or Charlo or Mendoza now. Some good fights for him. Or you couldn't blame him, I suppose, if there's an opportunity to fight for the WBO middleweight title. Of course, you can't begrudge him doing that. But I would think there's the bigger fights for him are at super welterweight. And I think even though he might get the shot at the WBO middleweight title, might even win it, I just don't think he's a middleweight, and I don't think he's a threat to some of those really good, solid middleweights going forward. But we'll see. Batman Boxing again. Go Manchester and get the win back for Kostya. Go to Manchester. I'm assuming that's for Tim Tszyu. Wouldn't be surprised if Smith was to go over to Australia. Well, as I said, Batman, it just doesn't make sense for Tim to give up any advantage at all to fight Smith in the UK. It just doesn't make sense. He's got the Charlo fight. I'm all for fighting Liam Smith, but in Australia. And Liam Smith will come and give a good account of himself. Make no mistake about that. But has to be in Australia. I mean, Tim's the A side. Yes, I know maybe in England Liam Smith is the A side, but at the moment, Tim Tszyu holds all the aces. He's got the shot at Charlo. And if Liam Smith wants to stay at super welterweight and fight Charlo down the track, then he's going to have to get over Tim Tszyu. So, and I don't think Liam Smith would be too worried about coming to Australia. I really don't. He's gone to the States and fought Canelo. I don't think fighting Tim Tszyu would hold a lot of fears for him. But we'll see. But whoever said it before, he has got options anyway. But going back to Manchester would be good at some stage, Batman. I reckon Tim would like to do that. Maybe we might see him fight Campbell Hatton one day, although I think Campbell might be a little bit lighter than Tim and nowhere near as skilled as his old man. So we'll see what happens there. But I know Tim, yeah, I got no doubt he would want to fight in the UK at some stage. Carl says Stevie Spark versus Gabriel Valenzuela in Mexico, May 6th on the Canelo Ryder undercard. Thoughts? Okay, let me get back to that in a second, Carl, because I want to go back to the Harry Garside question that Jules brought up before. If you don't know, as I said before, Harry is in the jungle. I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. And he said he's got a couple of choices that he has to make in the next probably few months. We all know that Harry and Johnny Lewis have parted ways. Johnny Lewis demanded 100% commitment to the or buy-in into his career. Harry couldn't give it to him, so they parted ways. Now Harry is saying, well, I've got to decide whether I stay amateur and go for gold at the Olympics, and maybe that will open up a lot of doors going forward, or I turn pro or stay pro, and that way I've got to commit. There's some big, maybe some big money to be made. No guarantees, of course, but there is some big money potentially for him to be made. So that's another option for him as well. And he's got all the ability in the world, Harry. He's probably got the ability to fight for a world title down the track. So he's got to have that in there. Or the other third alternative is just to give it away and don't worry about it. I'd be staggered if he gave it away. I think he likes the platform that he's got, whether it be as an amateur or a pro, which is why he's in the jungle. He's trying to build his own profile and his own brand. So the second, if he retires from boxing, all that goes away. He's no longer a name. He's no longer a brand. He's no longer nothing. He's just Harry Garside, citizen number, whatever it might be. So I would be really, really surprised if he retired. But as I said, he's got to make the call. If I was him, my advice to him would be go to the Olympics next year, try and win a gold medal, and if you do win the gold, well then maybe go pro, or maybe make the call then. But go to the Olympics and then make the call. Don't forego it now, which I don't think he will. He's on the cusp of Olympic selection now, so I'll be saying, look, take your time, go to the Olympics, hopefully win a gold medal or another medal, and then you've still got plenty of time to turn pro and do it that way. But be interesting to see what he does. Only he can make the call. All right, let's get on to Stevie Spark. It said then, Carl, in Mexico, yes, it's May 6th on the Canelo John Ryder undercard. Stevie Spark, 16-2, up against Gabriel Golas Valenzuela, who's 26-3-1. Now, it should be a really good fight, I think, Dad. I don't know a lot about Valenzuela. I looked him up a little bit on YouTube today. Look, he's capable. He has lost to Montana Love. I think it was a couple of fights back. So that's probably, I think he's won 2 fights since then, 1 or 2 fights since then. So a really good opportunity for Stevie Spark. And what I love about Stevie Spark is we could have written him off after the Tim Tszyu fight because he got stopped badly in 3 rounds by Tim Tszyu. However, he took the fight on a week and a half's notice. That's when Michael Rafa, of course, pulled out. We won't get into all that. That's probably coming at another stage. But he took the opportunity to fight Tim. Then, rather than go away with the tail between his legs, he came back again, took another chance on what wasn't really short notice, but took a big fight overseas against Montana Love. Got the win, we'll call it, disqualification win. But now what it's done He's setting up for some really, really, really good opportunities going down the track, and this is one. To fight on the undercard of Canelo and John Ryder, what an opportunity for him in Mexico as well. Should be a massive audience. I think they're expecting 50, 60, 70,000 people there. So unbelievable for him. And if he gets the win, well, who knows what happens after that? Could be some massive fights for him. So yeah, good on Stevie Spark. On Stevie Spark, Andy says, what happened to Montana Love rematch for Stevie Spark? Montana got WWE. I don't know about the WWE, mate, but yeah, look, I don't know. Excuse me. It was spoken about to be reinforced that he would have to fight Montana Love. It's Stevie Spark, but I don't know. Maybe Montana Love's gone AWOL. Who knows? But or maybe this is just a bigger opportunity for Stevie Spark. Would have been a good opportunity for these two guys to fight on the undercard, but only Eddie Hearn and Stevie Spark and Montana Love know the reasons there. But yeah, as I said, just a great opportunity for him. So hopefully he makes the most of it. And another Aussie fighting for a world title. Benny Harrington, how are you, mate? From All Star Boxing. Getting back to Fundora. Fundora is obviously better at close range than he's at long range. Okay, that's the beauty of boxing. There's many ways to skin a cat. Yeah, there is, Benny. I'm not going to disagree. But when you're 6'3" or 4 or 5, whatever it is, and you've got to reach that long, I just don't understand why you would stand in close. I'm not going to say 100% agree that he's better at close range, because obviously he got knocked out in this case and he got rocked a couple of times in the last fight. Look, I don't know. I don't understand, whether it be boxing or football or whatever it might be, that it's a bit like if, let's say football, regardless of whether it's AFL or rugby or whatever, or NFL, why you'd have the forwards playing back and the backs playing forwards. It's all backwards. So for me, he might feel more comfortable at close range, but why give up the advantages by fighting in there when you've got? It's a bit like, as I always say, if you're an orthodox fighter and you turn southpaw, you haven't really done a lot of turning, but you think it's a good idea at the time, and you turn to southpaw and you immediately negate yourself by 40 or 50% as soon as you turn. That's what I see this case is. But look, as I said before, Benny, Fundora and his team knows better than us, of course. I just don't see why you would give up your advantages when you've got all the everything in your favour. But we'll see. Carl says, how's Liam looking for Benny? Yep, give us the lowdown there, Benny. Keen to see the lad again. And Benny's actually replied, they're looking good. He's locked in. Okay. Well, whenever you want to let us know who he's fighting and when, I understand, no limit, going to have to announce it and all that sort of stuff. But it'd be good to get the inside word if you can at some stage, Benny. But great to see Liam back. Yeah, look, I said before about, when you get stopped or something. In Liam's case, yes, he was stopped, but didn't really get knocked around a lot. Obviously, didn't get knocked out. So I'm sure Liam's going to come back 100% and get many opportunities, just like Stevie Spark did. So looking forward to having him back, Benny, and all the best to Liam from us here. Batman says, I think Fundora will get the win back in the rematch. Well, as I said before, Batman, all he's got to do is do what he did for the first 6 rounds, and he should get the win. And that includes, standing more at long range. I don't know. But everything he did this time worked until he played, like he kept rolling the dice, and then craps came up and he got knocked out. So, but we'll see. Minnesota Mick, how are you, mate? Zoo to fight either Lubin or Ocampo. Well, that's more options there, I suppose. Mick, do you know anything that we don't? Nothing's been announced from this end as far as we know. But I think he's got probably 3, 4, even 5 opponents he could probably choose from, Mick. But the good thing about it is he's in the driver's seat. He gets to choose who he fights. He doesn't have to improve his ranking. He's got the Charlo fight. So it really just comes down to the fight that suits Tim Tszyu. And then whether that's style-wise or, look, my advice to them, and I'm sure they're right across, is don't fight, obviously, a banger. Don't fight someone that maybe leads with their head, because there's always the risk of cuts or whatever. Don't probably fight someone that's got too hard a head because he's had some hand issues. Just fight someone that's durable. That's where I think Liam Smith fits the bill beautifully. Great resume. Great, well, I won't say great. Very, very good fighter. Not a big puncher. Has been stopped. Can chop him down, but he's durable. So that's why I would think Liam Smith. But Yeah, those two guys would be good as well, mate. No doubt about that. Don't sleep on Mendez. He's a tough as dude over here. That's Mendoza, I'm assuming. Mick, yep. No, well, I don't think anyone's sleeping on him at the moment because he got the job done. Andy, Fundora should naturally be more cautious, so I can agree he could win a rematch. And saying that, Mendoza will be high off win, and body to head might be winning combo again. Well, as I said before, Andy, that the combination was just beautiful. And I know a lot of probably fans sort of just missed it. They just saw that left hook to the head. But if you watch it, that little lead to the body just gets Fundora's attention, just gets him looking down for that split second, and bang, he comes over the top with just an awesome left hook. And wasn't overly hard because it's sort of jab and then hook, and you don't really get the full leverage in it, but it just caught him at the exact time in the right spot. Legs buckled, froze him in time, and then the right hand is what put him down. Just a beautiful combination. So tough to come back. But I'm with you. I think if Fundora turns up and fights the way he should fight, I think he wins comfortably in the rematch. But however, Mendoza knows he can knock him out. So, of course, he's going to try and do that next time. What time is it over here, Mick? It is 7:45 in the PM on Monday night, Easter Monday. Fundora also looked bad in the Campo fight. Yeah, well, that's what I was saying before. He looked. That's who we fought, of course. I was trying to remember who it was as a Campo, of course. He did. He tried the same strategy, Batman, and almost paid the same price. So it was only for me. It was only a matter of time, and he ran out of his 9 lives and ended up on his ass. And the Sergio Garcia fight was very close. Yes, it was. He's had a few near misses over the journey. He's been managed really well, I will say. But as I said, mate, he rolled craps, and that was it for him. Yes, it's Monday night here, Mick. Boxing Rock Nation. Yeah, Noonan, I heard, moving back to LA. I didn't know that. Boxing Rock Nation. I wasn't aware of that, mate. Working with Showtime. I haven't spoken to Nick for a few weeks, so I'm not quite sure there, but it wouldn't surprise me anyway. He's into all the boxing media and knows a lot of people over there, so we'll see. Jules H. Lucky for Brock. He has a trainer that is a big advocate for the impacts of concussion and CTE, but can he change his natural style this late and be successful? Very good question, Jules. This is Jeff Fennick we're talking about. Yeah, I suppose it remains to be seen. And look, it was scary last time. We all pat him on the back about his heart, as I said earlier, but I don't want to see that happen to Brock. And I know he fought on the Horn and Zarafa card back in 2019. And even though he had a handy win against the Filipino fighter that night, he was tough. It was a really, really hard fight after that 10-round grueling fight. They had to give him a long spell after that because physically he was not in a great position, taking a lot of shots. His body, making the weight, super bantamweight, by the way, fought out there. Now he's going to be fighting at super welterweight. But anyway, and they had to give him a good spell after that because the effects on the weight and probably the training and obviously the head knocks had taken the toll, and they gave him a good spell. But now we had the fight in the States, and then he had the Paro fight, and now he's had this fight, sort of 3 fights in a row where he's been rocked really bad. So, but as I said before, I've got full faith that Jeff Fennick, obviously he's got his well-being first and foremost there. So I'm positive they'll be working on things to maybe make Brock just change his style up a little bit more. He does tend to lead with his face a little bit sometimes. He's a bit reckless with the way he goes about it. I would like to see him maybe sharpen up, and at a lighter weight, he probably could have got away with boxing a little bit more, a little bit different as he's going up in weight because the guys are now physically the same dimensions of what he was as he is. He had a big advantage in early stages of his career when he was at bantamweight. I think he actually might have started at super flyweight, and then the bantamweight, super bantamweight, and the featherweight. So, but yeah, Jules, I'm sure they're on it, and it can make some changes to his style. Whether Brock can do that, of course, is another story, but let's hope so because he's a great young guy, and I think he's got a big future if they can change a few things about him. Holy shit, Mick! What is it? Is it 5:30 a.m. over there, or must be 5:49 a.m. I'm probably thinking, but yeah. Happy Easter to you over there, Mick. Andy says concussions and CTE could literally be the end of contact sport in the future. Yeah, I agree, Andy. I look 5 years ago, or especially 10 years ago, but even 5 years ago, we would have laughed this off and said they'll never get rid of boxing. It's too big. But in this day and age, where everything is so watered down, so sanitized, so overanalyzed, and people are so offended by it, who knows? I mean, all you got to do is look at some of the comments sometimes. I see sometimes on some of the, whether it be the Herald Sun in Melbourne or the Daily Telegraph, I think is in Sydney, and the Courier Mail up in Brisbane, whatever. When they put a boxing or MMA, UFC story up, there's always someone that says they should ban this is barbarian and all the rest of it, and caveman-like, and they should ban it. Those people are out there. So if those people tend to get a bit more vocal and a few more voices come about, we've seen how, what do they call it, cancel culture. In this instance here, Andy, I'm with you. I'm worried that down the track it might be 10 years' time. It could be 5 years' time. There could be a real push to look at this. If the push is enough and there's political, all it takes is one of those politicians out there that's running or whatever, or wants to score some brownie points, that targets combat sports and says, right, we need to ban these sports or heavily sanitize them. So I don't really know how you heavily sanitize it because you're getting punched in the face. But if we get more concussions and CTE cases that you're having in the ball sports at the moment, so football and even soccer, I suppose, I have fears like you do, mate, that the voices will get louder and louder and louder, and some politician out there is going to want to, be the good guy and target our sports. I won't just say sports. I'm not an MMA guy, but full respect to the people that do it and follow it. I've got real worries that, down the track we could be having a ban. I really hope not. But just judging by the way the world is going out there, it's just turned upside down at the moment. I'm not going to get political. I know I sort of am with my shirt on here, but I worry that certain politicians out there, whether it be Australia, US, UK, the Western world, I do worry that at some stage they're going to target. Someone's just going to go, okay, we've done everything else out there. What else are we going to do? What else are we going to find at combat sports? There you go. There's a nice little political target for me. So let's go. And then, as we've seen, as it gathers momentum, gets a push behind it, gets the right people behind it. Let's face it. People say out there, well, no, it's too big out there, too much money. As we've seen, the minority rule. And all it takes is a small minority, because they're the most vocal. The majority, most of the time, will sit in silence and go, yeah, it never happened. I'll let other people handle it. The minority out there are the most vocal ones. And if they get vocal enough, Andy, I hope I'm wrong, but we might be in trouble. Let's hope not. What do you guys think? Geez, I hope I'm wrong about that. I really do. But I've just, all the things that we said, that couldn't possibly happen 5 or 6 years ago. Well, here we are. And they're all happening, different things all over the world. For whatever political persuasion you are, I just worry about where we're heading. But I'm not going to get political. This is a boxing show, not a political, whether you're left wing, right wing, red, blue, up, down, whatever it might be. Let's try and keep it neutral. I thought Mick was with Fight Hype. Well, he is, Mick. He is with Fight Hype, but who knows? They might have made him an offer to go to Showtime. I don't know. I know he was looking to cut back. This is Nick Noonan we're talking about, of course, Noonan Boy Promotions. He was looking to cut back on the boxing media type of scene, especially going to America. But who knows? He might have got a great opportunity. And wouldn't that be awesome? Working for Showtime. It's one thing to work for Fight Hype, which is one of the best out there, of course, but to work for one of the big boys at Showtime, who knows? So good luck if that's the case. Batman Boxing, back to Liam Smith and Eubank. I thought the fight was close, edge to Eubank, but the finish from Smith was very surprising. Eubank took some huge shots from Groves and was fine, but he didn't. But he doesn't seem to have it anymore. I don't think the fire's on the belly anymore, Batman. I just think that's been pretty obvious in his performances, even the ones he's won. I just don't think he's got the fire in the belly anymore. I really don't. He's probably comfortable money-wise. I think his legacy fights have probably passed him by now. And I wouldn't be surprised if he fades off into the darkness, Batman, but we'll see. Still on that one, what else you got to say there, mate? Eubank's stamina and volume was his main attribute since becoming more selective with his shots. Doesn't seem to be as effective. Comes back to the Roy Jones Jr. thing, Batman. He's trying to be Roy Jones Jr., and he's not. or as Zoolander would say, you aren't Roy Jones Jr. And I'm sure my wife out there will get a laugh at that because we joke about that all the time. But he's not. He's not Roy Jones Jr. He's Chris Eubank Jr. So why not get himself a trainer if Roy Jones can't do it that brings out the best Chris Eubank Jr., not the best imitation of Roy Jones Jr. So I would hope that he either changes trainer or he has a chat to Roy Jones and they sit down and go, okay, we're going to be successful going forward. This is what we have to do. And it's not trying to be Roy Jones Jr. It's been Chris Eubanks Jr. Carl, let's change the subject here for a second, mate. The Maloney boys. Of course, we're always up to talk about the Maloney boys. Looking forward to the brothers fighting. Here's hoping they both win and give us another couple of champions. Well, as I always say, Carl, you've got to be in it to win it. And how good would that be? And if, everyone knows about it, of course. But so Jason's fighting on the 13th in Stockton, California. And, of course, Andrew's fighting on the 20th at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas on the Haney Lomachenko undercard. Look, both tough fights, Carl. At this level, of course, you don't really get any easy fights, especially when you're fighting for a world title. Both are more than capable of winning the world title that they're fighting for. And look, I know personally how hard and how much these guys have sacrificed over the years to get where they want. And like all professional fighters, I don't just want to say the boys, but I just know they've just lived this and breathed this sport for however years now, how many years. They've uprooted their families from Melbourne to Sunshine Coast, the north coast of New South Wales to train with Angelo Hyder, and gone to America numerous times, back and forth, especially during the pandemic, spending weeks, if not months, in quarantine, all these sorts of things. So I just know how much they sacrifice, and I really hope both boys get the wins over there, and I'm sure both of them are capable. Back to Big J. What do we got there? This is about Eubank. Again, as I said before, the only thing that Eubank Jr. inherited from Roy Jones was his glass jaw. Well, maybe. Isn't it funny, though, with Roy Jones, we talk about fighters getting knocked out and what effect it has. He was great early in his career, but as soon as he got chinned that first time by Tava, after that, he was consistently rocked and stopped. So, also, this is Phoenix's mistake with Jarvis, okay, trying to make Brock his clone. Yeah, well, we have talked about that in the past, Big J. Now, I don't know whether that's a conscious thing from Jeff trying to make Brock into his clone, or whether Brock just idolizes Jeff so much that he tries to fight like him. But all you got to do is watch Brock train and then fight, of course, to know that that Jeff's obviously his idol, and he bases everything he does on Jeff. But Jeff was just a different beast. And I do agree with you that I'm not quite sure where it's come from, but the fact that Brock has fought a lot like Jeff in the past or tried to fight like him has been to his detriment. I would like to see either Brock stop or deciding not to do that, or Jeff pulling him up and saying, right, we need to change his style. Let's get back on the jab a little bit more distance, work our way into the fight, and then we can start to break them down. Because the problem Brock's had in his fights, and he only knows one way at the moment, right from the word go, and it worked when in the smaller weights, but not so much now. He storms out of the gates. He attempts to get straight on their opponent's chest like Jeff did. But Jeff was just, as I said, just a different beast. And he was always so much bigger and stronger than his opponents. Brock had that advantage early in his career, but not so much now as he goes up in weight. And he tries from the very first bell to get on their chest, which opens him up, which is why he always gets caught early. Because while they're fresh, there's always a bomb that's going to land. I would like to maybe see him, as I said, sit down on the jab a little bit more. Spend two or three rounds working his opponent out, getting his range, getting his timing, and then once he gets that, then start to break his opponent down with his stamina, his strength. Got okay power, but I'm with you there, mate. I just hope whether it's Brock or Jeff or both of them together decide that we've got to get that out of his DNA of trying to be Jeff Fenech, because he's not, as we all know. Batman boxing again. What do you got there, mate? Campbell is awful. This is Campbell Hatton. Maybe Nikita puts it on him for fun, but the weight's too big. Yeah, he's only a little fella, Campbell. I've got a little bit of a worry about Campbell going forward. I know he's been lucky in a couple of his fights. He's trying to be like Ricky, and everyone expects him to be like Ricky. I hope we don't see a repeat of that where he fights someone skillful and it doesn't end well for Campbell. But look, good luck for the guy, the young bloke, for having a go. But I think they need to match him very, very carefully, young Campbell. And he says, go the Maloney's. Yes, you still salty. Jason ducked Nonito for WBC belt, Carl. Can always unify later, which will be bigger, in my opinion. Yeah, well, I've said it on here before. Andy, I don't know for sure. I haven't asked, although I will be asking the question when we're in the States. I can guarantee you that. But he didn't duck him. Top Rank made the decision, as I've said on here a few times. I know we're going over old ground here, Carl, and I know you're still filthy about it, but don't lose faith. I've got no doubt that if Jason and Nonito win, I've got a feeling that there will be some peace between Probellum and Top Rank. It is Probellum, isn't it? Yeah, it is. And we might see something happen. Or maybe Nonito leaves Probellum, whatever, and we get the job done. Although I think, was Nonito with Top Rank at some stage? I'm not sure. I think he was, or was it Golden Boy? Either one. But I've just got a feeling that Jason and Nonito, if they both win, will fight for the unified title later in the year. Carl says, just disappointed, Andy, with the business. Yeah. Just disappointed, yeah, with the business. Yeah, I'm with you, Carl. 100%, mate. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense, but that's why they call it a business, obviously. Big J again. Spark down 5 rounds already in Mexico. Why is Eddie putting Spark up against someone Love beat? How's that a step up? More evidence Eddie doesn't give a rat's men's Oz boxing. Yeah, I don't know, Big J. It's a good point, I agree. But when you think about it, I don't know. Be interesting to see what Eddie has in store for Spark. Does he just see him as, the tough Aussie guy that will throw into the Mexicans' hometown and see what sort of fight we get? And we don't really give a shit about Spark, or is he getting behind Steve and putting in with someone like what was his guy's name? Valenzuela, that he thinks he can beat and get a good scalp under his belt to then take him to the next level. I'm with you as far as the rounds goes. I don't know why he'd be fighting Mexican in Mexico, but it's an interesting one. I'm not quite sure of Eddie's intentions of Spark. I think I agree with you, actually, looking at that the fact he's put Steve in with a Mexican in Mexico on a big Mexican card, maybe just he's viewing Stevie as that tough Aussie guy that we can put in and get a good fight out of him and make our guy look good. I don't know. I hope that's not the case. But either way, I don't think Stevie Spark would give a shit about that anyway. He would say, all right, line them up and I'll take my chances. I've just got to give Stevie Spark full respect for going to Mexico to fight a very durable and experienced Mexican in Mexico. So either way it is, I don't think Stevie would give a rat's. He would just want the big fight and the opportunity. So I'm sure he'll make the most of it. Benny again, mate. I understand why people think he should box long. This is Fundora. But if he's walked up and fought at close range his whole life, then it's not the time now to change him. Yeah, I agree to some extent, Benny. I think definitely as an amateur, probably not a big deal because the object, of course, in the amateurs is to outscore your opponent rather than knock them out. And they're only 3-round fights, so a little bit of pity-pat going on. The pros are a little bit different, as you full well know. And maybe fighting those guys coming up early in his career, he got away with it and got a little bit of false sense of security. Thought he could do it against a quality opponent. This is Mendoza we're talking about. This is not Zhu. This is not Charlo. I'm sure he's obviously a good fighter, of course, and very durable, very experienced and everything else, but he's not a Zhu or Charlo or some of these other killers out there, I suppose, at that weight. So I've just got a feeling he had a false sense of security about him and just got caught, and as I said earlier, just learnt the hard way. But don't know, mate. I think as you go up against better opposition, you have to change certain aspects. We've seen it with Tim Zhu. Learnt the Gorchet fight when he come out and got caught in the first round. When he fought Harrison, while it was aggressive, he didn't really take the same amount of chances early. Really found a way to feel Harrison out and then put the foot down. I would have thought that maybe Fundora would do the same, where against these quality guys at super welterweight, that he'd at least play it safe for a couple of rounds and then maybe step it up if he knows he's got it over them. But in this case here, mate, he had the fight won. He was 6 rounds in front, 6 rounds to nothing, and 5-1 on the other card. I don't know. Look, who knows, mate? But it's an interesting one. It's worth debating anyway. Getting back to Stevie Spark, maybe Eddie just keeping Stevie busy. A Montana rematch happens next. I don't think so, Andy. I don't think this is the type of guy you have a stay busy fight. I don't think. I would think he, as I said before, it's two minds of whether Eddie sees Stevie as someone that could be a bankable fighter down the track, and he wants this guy who he thinks he can beat to get a bit of more of a platform, or he just thinks, I'll just feed this Aussie guy to the Mexican in Mexico. I don't know. But either way, as I said, I don't think it would worry Stevie Spark at all. He would just say, bring it on. Where, when, who, what am I getting paid? Let's go. Batman Boxing again says, coming up close at that size, letting your opponent get in the trades is just comical. Whenever he fights a puncher, he's in serious danger of getting slept again. Yeah, well, I think this is just a learning curve for him, Batman. I would have thought in his last fight, when he did cop a few from a campo, that he would have maybe learnt, but he did get out of that. And of course, he's had a few of those fights on the way where he has been hit, but as I said to Benny before, not at the level that he's fighting at now. But, as I say, sometimes you've got to learn the hard way, and he's learnt the hard way. Let's hope he comes back a better fighter. Give us the scoop, Benny. Ha, I'm just a shit kicker, coach, mate. I don't have the info. I'll just hold the pads. I think you're a little bit more than that, Benny. You're done a great job with the fighters you've got up there. He's got plenty of opponents except the one he wants. Jay Brown. I think Eddie Hearn is trying to walk Stevie into a loss and move on from him. He wanted Montana to win. Yeah, we did. Well, Montana was the A side, wasn't he? Steve will hopefully just keep winning. He will do the same with Dara too. Yeah, well, he's got some good fights for him, hasn't he, Stevie Spark? No matter what happens against this guy, the Dara Foley fight's out there, and that makes 100% sense for him to fight him. Liam Paro is obviously another big one, and I think as good as Dara Foley has been recently, for me, it's Stevie Spark and Liam Paro. That is the fight that I would hope that Eddie Hearn would have looked at a while ago and said, okay, we've got something to play with here. Didn't necessarily think Stevie Spark brought much to the table, but he's come in. He's got the win over Montana Love. Let's make the best of the situation, and let's get these two guys. Let's get Paro his world title, and let's match these guys up. And that's what surprised me with this matchup. Why he wouldn't have, maybe have the Montana Love fight, whatever. But if not, then fight maybe a couple of, other guys on big cards around the world, and then aim for Paro and Stevie in Australia for the world title. That would make a lot more sense to me. But I'm with you. I don't think he, after looking at that, maybe I just don't think he has a lot of faith in maybe what Steve can do for Matchroom going forward, and he might just want to give him to the Mexicans over there and maybe move on. Who knows? I hope that's not the case. And as I said, I don't think Stevie Spark would care. Andy says about Tim Zhu, I don't think it should be Lubin. Just had his shot via Fundora last fight. Just saying. Yeah, he's got to build himself up, but just depends on whether he's a good name and a good style opponent for Tim Andy. If it makes sense, they'll fight him. Old mate Big J, big shout out for the GWOAT. Susie Ramadan, I didn't know that. Susie, yep, so happy birthday to Susie Ramadan, one, if not, the greatest, or one of the greatest Aussie women fighters of all time. Definitely one of the pioneers of women's boxing in this country and the world. So happy birthday to Susie Q. Minnesota Mick says, was on Twitter about Noonan. He's saying he's good looking, Mick, I think. Or have you added something a little bit, or looking good, are you trying to say? Who knows? I'll have to ask Nick. As I said, I haven't spoken to him for a few weeks. Looks like it's execrable for us all. No sacrilege, is it? No risk of CTE. Thanks, South Park. Yeah, South Park. They've laid the boots in a little bit over the last sort of 12 or 18 months, haven't they? Oh, I love what they do. And look, I think at this point, you've got to be able to take the piss. I think everyone just takes things way too seriously these days. And we're all getting offended about stuff that happened centuries ago. Come on. We're all getting blamed for stuff we didn't even do. Anyway, I don't want to get into that, as I've said, of whatever your persuasion is out there. But, I'm glad people or companies or shows like South Park can still take the piss a little bit. Because, geez, we've got to laugh at ourselves sometimes, don't we? I hope you're right here, Batman. Boxing isn't going anywhere. No boxing, no life, mate. I hope you are right. I just worry in this watered down and sanitized world we live in these days. all around the Western world that I just worry that at some stage someone's going to turn their attention to this. And as I said before, mate, the minority tends to rule, and the majority just bend and fold and whatever, and they always get what they want. So let's hope not. Looks like they've still got a few other bigger things on the agenda for starters, or at the moment, Batman. So let's hope it's quite a while before they turn their attentions to combat sports. Andy says, bit late, but happy Easter, everybody. Yes, again, happy Easter to all concerned out there. It comes and goes pretty quick. I mean, we just did Christmas and now it's Easter. We'll be in the footy final soon, then back into Christmas again. But as you get older, the years tend to fly by, so make the most of it, eh? Batman says, we'll just go underground field fights like the early days. Well, yeah, you might be right, mate. Well, there is still underground out there. I know Bare Knuckle started underground, didn't? I think UFC was sort of semi-underground. I don't know. I think it would go that way, but I just worry, mate. I really hope I'm wrong, but nothing would surprise me in this day and age, so we'll see. Carl says, Minnesota Mick, how's the Bud Light tranny beer trending? Oh, geez, the tranny beer. Bud Light, geez. I've got a feeling, I know we're getting off topic here, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I don't want to get political. I do this in the privacy of my own home. But I would think that with the pushback on Bud Light at the moment, they'd be sitting around the boardroom going, geez, that really seemed like a good idea at the time, didn't it? Yeah, we'll just do that and just don't alienate the hundreds of millions of people people probably around the world that drink Bud Light. Or, was there 365 million people in America? You probably guaranteed probably 100 million of them drink Bud or Bud Light. So I just don't know what sort of idea that was out there, guys, sitting around. But it always seems good in hindsight until those very people that make you the money and make you the company that you are turn their back and do this to your product. So I think they're going to learn. We talked about Fundora learning the hard way. I think the Bud Light people, I think the brand manager might be maybe having to please explain, Carl. Let's just put it that way. All right, crazy things happen, mate. Who would have thought Lynden would be on my TV in 2023? Good call, Benny. I would never have thought that, mate, to be honest. It's a very, very good call. I never thought I'd be on YouTube. I didn't even really know what YouTube was till about 2 years ago. Never watched it, never knew anything about it. Started to, a guy that worked for me said, you got to watch YouTube. It's got all never watched it. And now I think it's awesome. And then I had the bright idea of thinking people out there would have, be interested to hear what I had to say about the sport. But I do appreciate everyone out there watching and making comments. But yeah, crazier things happen, mate. Maybe I might do it full time one day. I've seen some YouTubers fly around the world and they get money and from Patreons and sponsorship and product endorsement. Maybe that's what I might do. I might just fly around the world and cover all the big fights all over the world and just travel and get other people to pay for it. In a perfect world, I'm sure I'd be a little competition out there, I reckon, for the amount of people that want that job. But how good would it be? But yeah, good comment there, Benny. Well, Bud Light was a bloke in a dress promoting light beer, so anything is possible. Yep, 100% agree there, mate. What was his name? Is it Dylan someone? Is he a cross-dresser or a transvestite or a she-male or something? I don't know what they call them these days. But either way, as I said, I think the brand manager of Bud Light would be biting his fingernails at the moment, or her fingernails, thinking, shit, what have I done? I don't think they're going to have a job very soon. I don't think, but you never know. Jules says, did you ever suffer any serious concussions in your own career, Lynden? Is it something you need to monitor going forward? No. Very, very fortunate, Jules. I never got knocked out. I got rocked a couple of times, I will say. I got dropped an absolute pisser by Richie Rolls, and Tassie Brown always likes to remind me of it. Look, I remember at the Olympics, I fought a Russian there from Kazakhstan, he was, and even though I didn't get knocked out, I took some good shots. I remember getting out of it, and I reckon I was a little bit concussed, but that's probably the only time I think where I've got out the ring and been a little bit hazy. But that's it. I always, only been an amateur fighter, of course. They're only 3-round fights. Sometimes the spars are a lot harder than the fights. And I'm sure all you guys out there that have had fights, whether it be amateur or professional, would agree. Sometimes the gym wars take a lot more toll on you than the actual fights. Because especially in the amateurs, when I was there, it's when the point system was in. It was all about, the pity-pat sort of sparring. And which is one of the reasons I gave it away, because my style just wasn't suited to it. Probably more suited to pro, but I never wanted to go pro. So I was probably lucky that way. To answer your question there, Jules, I was very, very lucky that I didn't suffer any serious concussions or be knocked out at any stage. So very, very lucky. But I did get dropped once against Richie Rolls, as I said. It was a beautiful right hand. Had the bright idea, and I'm sure Benny, you'd agree with this, had the bright idea of leading with a left hook against someone that had a big right hand. He just went bang, straight down the middle, and I did about 3 backward somersaults. Didn't knock me out though, but dropped me. And then in sparring before the Commonwealth Games, I actually got dropped by, we're in Thailand for our training camp, and I was sparring, actually got dropped by a left hook against the Thai champion. And probably a little bit more embarrassing more than anything, but good left hook, put me on my behind, and I was a little bit rocked about that, but nothing serious, mate. And I don't have any memory loss. I'm sure my wife would disagree. I'm always forgetting to do something. But I'm very fortunate in that way, mate. I haven't had anything at all to talk about. So let's hope. I'm in my late 40s, so hopefully that'll be the case going forward. But as I said before, mate, it does make me sad that a lot of fighters that I went away with or competed against or just simply know in the sport, a lot of them have issues these days. And I think sometimes they mightn't even know they have issues. But I'll give an example. I won't mention any names, but I caught up with a fighter that I used to know really, really well back in the day. I'm talking 20 years ago, 25 years ago, or whatever it was. Knew them as an amateur, sharp as a tack. Met them for the first time probably in the last 12 months after not seeing them for 20 to 25 years, and couldn't believe how much they deteriorated, and they probably didn't even realise. So it's sad, and that's why, as I said before, we need to do as much as possible to police this now. We know more than we ever have about the sport. All the football codes are doing it, and boxing maybe needs to have a bit more of a look at it. And as I said earlier, maybe it's got to be a mandatory 3 months, not 30 days, 3 months minimum. And if it's a bad knockout like Fundora, he probably should have 6 months out, the way he was concussed. Maybe it's got to be graded in a certain way. If he gets stopped, 30 days. If it's a knockout or whatever, maybe it's 3 months. If it's a bad knockout, maybe it's 6 months. I don't know. Easier said than done. But I just think more has got to be done, not just a blanket 30 days. You'll be right, mate. Because doesn't mean you can't. A lot of in instances too, they might ban you from fighting for 30 days or more. Doesn't mean you can't go to your gym and spar. They can't police that. They might recommend you don't spar, but they can't police it. And I do know, again, a lot of fighters out there, they aren't the sharpest tools in the shed or the smartest guys out there. And they'll go back and go, yeah, I'm all right, and jump in there and get knocked around in sparring. So, I don't know. But more needs to be done. Minnesota Mick says, I hate Bud Light. I've had it too, mate. It does. It sucks. And it's not actually... I think here in Australia, we would say Bud Light would be a light beer or a mid-strength beer. In the States, it's actually a heavy beer. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Mick. It's a heavy beer. It's just less in calories. So I have been caught before just trying to have a couple of lights or mids, and they're actually full-strength beer. So make sure you look at that if you decide to drink it. I think there's a lot of guys out there that and girls that have said to Bud Light. So good luck to you. Stevie Spark couldn't care less. He just wants to fight. Yep, I agree there, mate. I was going to mention this too. Congratulations, Marlon Tapales. Great competitive upset win over the Russian. That was on the undercard, of Jesse Rodriguez. He won the 12-round decision over Christian Gonzalez. So that was on the undercard. The Russian was undefeated, 11-1. Tapales with the WBA IBF Super Bantamweight titles, 37-3. So a really, really good effort by Tapales. Benny, on the subject of concussion, I agree with changing aspects. He needs to smother, not sit at mid, but I don't think he can fight at long range. This is Fundora, sorry. Change some aspects. Just change things up a little bit. But I just don't understand, Benny, why to stand there and put the right shoulder, southpaw of course, puts the right shoulder in the chest and then really doesn't do a lot. He's looking to actually counter a banger. So he's in close, he puts the right shoulder in the chest, doesn't do anything, and just almost challenges the opponent he's fighting just to start throwing uppercuts and hooks, and then he decides he's going to counter. So I don't know, mate. But judging by that, that should be a wake-up call that something we're doing. I know he got caught in a fight that was well in front of, but Mendoza's not Charlo and he's not Tim Tszyu. So, I would think it should be a wake-up call to change a few aspects of what he's doing. Yes, Andy, reminder, like and subscribe. Share it around all the time, guys. Big J, Sacras a Ball was it? Oh, okay. I don't really watch it. Sorry, mate. I haven't seen the episode. Sacras a Ball was the Southside episode where the boys played a pansy-ass version of NFL with a balloon, tinfoil hats to nullify the risks of CT. Very funny episode. I haven't really seen a lot of South Park, Big J. I did see the one where I had to laugh when they did the women in sport, where they had the Randy Savage take off, and he went into women in sport and he was beating the shit out of him and swimming and running and all that sort of stuff. And stunning and brave, they said, Big J, but I haven't seen that one, mate, but I know where you're getting that. Sorry, mate. Thanks for clarifying. For the record, the Bud Light promotion idea with the transgender was a woman's idea. Well, there you go. They obviously don't know their market. I mean, I'm in the industry, by the way, the liquor industry. So I meet with reps from all different categories. I've met them. And Jack Daniels is the other one, by the way, too, which might be on the chopping block because they've now gone that way. I know I don't want to spend too much time on it because it is a boxing show, but to clarify there, I'm in the liquor industry. And as I said, I meet with those with state and national and local reps and all the time about the strategy going forward. A lot of them have these great ideas. Let's bring out a fruit beer. Let's bring out Jack Daniels Seltzer. Let's bring out Jack Daniels Apple and all these sorts of stuff. All people who know nothing about their target audience and the ones that actually buy the drinks. I'm talking Jack Daniels. I hope my rep's not watching this, but take it as an example, Big J. The people that drink, the guys and girls that drink Jack love it because it's got some balls about it. It's got a bit of attitude, bad to the bone type of. It's almost when you see the Jack Daniels logo, you think bad to the bone being played. It's that type of brand. So they brought out the Jack Daniels Seltzer. Now the Seltzer drinkers go, I'm not drinking Jack Daniels. That's yuck, 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 yuck. The Jack Daniels drinker, I'm not drinking that piss. So where's it happens? It's in my $1 discount bin at the moment, trying to clear it out. That's what I'm getting at. So I'm assuming if this instant, and same with Jack Daniels Apple, by the way, it's in my discount bin, getting rid of it now. But to further your point there, Bud Light promotion, if it was a woman, hey, it's a great idea. Let's get with the times and let's make a Bud Light. As I said, I would say she'd be looking for a new job about now because all those solid guys and girls out there that love a Bud Light, Bud's more of that, typical American brand type. It's America's beer like Jack Daniels is and Jim Beam and those types of things. You don't play around with your target audience. You might think it's great to maybe appeal to a fraction of your audience, but this much audience says. So anyway, we've got to move on. Don't want to. I did say I wasn't going to go on about that stuff, so I apologise, guys. Teofimo Lopez might be pulling the sponsorship. Hey, on the topic, how do you see Josh Taylor TO fight going? I hope Josh knocks him out. Okay, I did have this on the agenda. Getting back to boxing. Enough for the talk about Bud Light and Jack Daniels and everything. All right, so Josh Taylor, TO, they did the official announcement on the weekend of the Shakur Stevenson that we haven't even spoken about yet, and Shakiro Yoshino card. They announced that they did the interview with both of the guys. I agree with Josh Taylor. He made the trip from Scotland to the States and to Newark, New Jersey, and Teofimo Lopez didn't make the appearance at the fight. He was on the satellite delay or the satellite camera. So I did agree with that. But a little bit of banter there. I think these guys really respect each other, and which is good. I think you'll see a great fight. For me, it depends on which Teofimo Lopez turns up. I'm actually at this stage picking Josh Taylor to win that fight. However, he was less convincing in his last fight as well. But Teofimo, to me, is just that self-doubt has started to creep in. So really it depends on what the better version of each turns up. If the best version of each turns up, I would think Teofimo Lopez wins this fight. Josh Taylor, excuse me, I'm giving a little bit of a pass on his last fight. But I think if he comes in anywhere near that, and we see the Lopez we've seen for the last probably 3 fights, I think Josh Taylor wins. You said you hope Josh knocks him out. I hope he does too. I'm not a massive fan of Teofimo Lopez. Take your LTO. from George Cambosis. He still can't let it go. Good fighters lose fights, Tio. Let it go, accept it, and move on, and just get on with it. But he just refuses to let it go, and his dad as well. All right. Here's a new one. Check your own crew. Okay, so I haven't seen you on this show before, crew, I'll call you, but welcome to the show. What have we got? I'm down here living by the Outer Banks down here by the Crockies in East Australia. The wife is as bad as these crocs, if you know what I mean. Great show. Thanks, crew. Really appreciate it, mate. And I know where you're coming from. Jules, anything on the KO show worth looking out for this weekend? Curious matchups between Sheen and Indonesian, who hasn't won in about a decade. All right, Jules. Well, I was hoping probably not to go there. I really like KO. He's been on the show a few times. His manager, of course, Peter Maniatis, is a good friend and part of the show, has been part of the show. Let's just say in this instance, I'm never going to pull the punches on my opinion of these shows. Let's just say that they must have got some really good airfare prices for the Indonesians over there. And I've looked at the card. I will say Arnel is it Tenampe, who Joel's fighting, will be a good fight for KO. And I don't blame Joel. It's his show. He's promoting it himself. It's a good fight for him. He's solid. Look, he's got a 28, 26-1 record, but I don't think he's ever been stopped. Given a lot of good, solid Aussies, really good fight. So I think he'll be a good fight for KO. But I looked at the opponent of Matt Sheen. He's 23, 25, and 2. Jamed Jalarante is his name. Bad fight. I don't know what to think. I know Matt's supposed to be fighting Conor Wallace in another couple of months after that. So maybe they're using it as a tune-up fight. He hasn't really been active over the journey, has Matt Sheen. I'm just looking at his record now. He's got 2 fights there. So the Conor Wallace fight's in July 15th. Hasn't fought since the end of May last year when he had a 10th round stoppage of Mitchell Whitelaw. So, look, it's nearly 12 months by the time he gets in there. Look, it's all well and good, but it's okay if you got 1, maybe 2 fights on there with the Indonesian that over there coming. But look, when you've got pretty much there's 2, 4, 6, 7 fights on the card, and 2, 4, 6 of the opponents on the B side are either from Indonesia or I think Tenape actually is from the Philippines. So, as I said, I'm sure he'll give him a good fight, but I don't know. Look, I'm sure I'll get a message from either one of them, but it's probably, look, let's just say, Jules, it's not really a card that I'll be buying a live stream of, put it that way, or buying a table. But having said that, KO, he markets the show really well. He's promoting the show. He wants to keep busy. I think Tenape will be a good fight for him, personally. But, yeah, as I said, I won't be buying the stream for the undercard, mate, because I just think there's so many fighters over Australia at the moment. Why do you have to spend all that money bringing in half a dozen Indonesians? I just don't understand it. But anyway, Carl, Lynden explained trend. I'm trying my best, mate. I'll be the one they'll cancel next. I don't care, though. I'll have my say. Actually, I'll go back a sec there. What was that? I was a punching bag with legs as a junior. We've all had our moments, Carl. But I think I've obviously spoken to you on this show before. You've got all your faculties, so you'll be fine, mate. Richie Roll, Coach Richard Ford, helping me in the gym at the moment. Okay, 82-year-old Richard Ford, 400 fights. Holy shit. For Poland back in the 50s and 60s, he had Todd Kidd, another really, really good amateur as well. Jared Fletcher and Rolls. Yeah, Jared Fletcher was a really, really good amateur and obviously went pro as well. But Rollsy ended up really good mates with Richie Ben. Over the years. Look, I was probably dirty on him, obviously, when he beat me back in '93. That was at the Nationals up in Redcliffe, I think it was. But I made the national team in '90. Well, actually earlier that year was '93, but with him in '96 for the Olympics and a few other tournaments beside that. And we ended up getting really good friends. We used to spar all the time. When you're on the national team, you always spar the guy above you and below you. So, of course, I was welterweight. Richie was light middleweight, so I'd spar him a lot. Lee Troush was the other one I sparred a lot with, being the light welterweight. But really got to be good mates with Richie over the years. And as I said, we went to many tournaments together and did a lot of rounds. So I got all the respect in the world for Richie, but I won't ever forgive him for putting me on my ass at the Nationals in '93. But hey, that was my wake up call as well. I learnt you had to maybe work your way inside against someone like Richie before you start throwing power punches. Because literally, and you'd know this, Ben, he would cave people's heads in with one punch. Literally. I've seen him literally cave someone's cheek in with a right hand. Just a massive puncher. And I think that year when he beat me at the Nationals, I think Dave Birch was another one, a great trainer out there at the moment, good amateur fighter from that era as well. I think he knocked poor old Birch out about 3 times and just knocked everyone out. He was a killer, was Richie. All right, oh, here we go. It's my wife, smart Jules. You were smart enough to get out early, and Carl, it's always amusing to see him trying to be politically correct. Well, in my own home, I can go off and rant and rave, but I've got to be careful on here. I have got a business, and obviously this channel, I've got to be a little bit careful, but no one will ever stop me from having an opinion. So, but I've just got to be sometimes a bit careful. All right. So there wasn't without offers. Many wishing gone pro. Lucky decided to go into business. Yeah, I did. I did have offers to go pro, Jules. I almost did. But luckily, I had a few brains left there, and went into business, got married, and had quite a different life than what I might have had. Because don't get me wrong, when I was a kid coming up, and I started boxing at 9 or 10 years of age, all I ever wanted to be was a professional fighter. But when I got to 25, I think it was, ticked the boxes and a lot of stuff I wanted to achieve. Didn't get the results I wanted to achieve, but Olympics, Commonwealth Games, World Championships, all that, Australian titles, all that sort of stuff, I ticked the boxes, and for me, that was enough, and the fire just wasn't there, and I walked away. So, and yes, Andy, family first, 100%. Although I do worry, I've got 2 sons. One of them's just turned 18 and starting to do a little bit of boxing. Actually, little quick story for you. Wanted to spar. So on Good Friday, we jumped in and had a little bit of a quick spar with my son, which is sort of easier said than done. I think he's had one spar before with a few of his mates, but he's about 6'2", weighs about 85 kilos, so he's a lot bigger than what I am. I'm 5'8" and probably about 80 kilos, but still, he carries his a little bit better than what I do, but that's why I spent my Good Friday punching on my son. So I get a little bit concerned. He's starting to take a bit of a liking to boxing. Let's hope he chooses a different career, because I don't think I'd want him to be involved at any sort of level. But anyway, it's his choice, not for me. All right, back to Taylor and Teo. Seemed off ever since he beat Loma. Well, obviously, I think Cambosis was more the reasons for that, Batman, because he, like a lot of fighters, could not conceive that he might possibly lose, and he obviously got beaten by Cambosis, and he just hasn't been the same since. So let's hope he comes back. Carl's not so sympathetic. He hopes or thinks George took his soul. Andy says it's got JT to win. This is Josh Taylor, but full props if Teo proves me wrong. Both have a point to prove. I think one good thing about it, though, Andy, is at least we're starting to see these really good elite fighters starting to fight each other. We've got Haney Lomachenko coming up. We've got Garcia and Davis coming up. We've got Taylor and Teo coming up. Hopefully we'll get Fury and Usyk at some stage, or Joshua and Fury. There's so many really good fights out there, and I'm just sort of picking a few there. But at least we're now starting to see the best fighting the best. Let's hope we get Spence and Crawford. But we'll see. But yes, some good fights out there starting to be made. So let's hope it becomes a bit of a habit. Foley is screwed against Catterall. Yeah, I did see that. To be fair, Eddie actually made a decent fight. Yeah, I did see that. I forgot to mention that, Big J. That's a good fight. And again, credit to Foley for stepping up and saying, all right, I'll take him. No easy fight, of course. I'm assuming it's going to be in the UK. So tough fight for Foley. But hey, you got to be in it to win it. As Liam Wilson showed, as Stevie Sparks showed, as Cambosis showed, Tim Zoos showed, Jeff Horn showed. You got to be in the mix to achieve the ultimate goal. I think Taylor will probably break Teo down. Cambosis beat the shit out of him, I'm assuming. If Taylor will do something similar, but much bigger and hits harder, yeah, I think so too. I think he was just exposed a little bit, Batman. I think Lomachenko, I don't think we saw I'm not taking anything away from Lopez, by the way, but I don't think we've seen the best Lomachenko against Teofimo Lopez. And I think he's sort of learnt as well. But I just think Lopez, since the Kambosos fight, just hasn't been the same. So it's up to him whether he picks up the gauntlet and runs with it now and gets it back, or he falls by the wayside as well. Batman, fair play, been Olympian, incredible achievement. Yeah, it was something to look back on. Batman, that was the '96 Olympics in Atlanta, and also the Worlds in '93 in Finland and '97 in Hungary as well. So look, really, really, obviously proud of what I did as an amateur, mate. But yeah, sometimes I will say you wonder what if, but really happy with what I achieved in the sport. All right, what have we got here? Andy, seen YouTube opinions on Shakur, divided in Nishino, win 4 props to Shakur, beat the best top 10 he could get. Cruz didn't want that work. I agree. I thought Shakur was brilliant. I think he did everything he had to cut down Nishino. So I'm not quite sure what the responses were there, mate, but I thought he looked really, really good. And he's called out Devin Haney. If you probably would have seen on YouTube, there's been some footage of them sparring in the past. And I thought Shakur actually did very, very well against Haney. I know sparring is not fighting, but I back Shakur to beat Haney if and when they do fight. Haney will probably move up. Let's see what happens. Although he has said he's not going to move up, I would be surprised if he doesn't move up after the Lomachenko win. If he wins or even loses, he might move up. But I was really impressed with Shakur. Andy, I thought he fought very, very well and did what he had to do against an undefeated fighter. Carl says not all in on the hype of the Tank versus Ryan fight. 136 doesn't make sense. 1 pound, like not even half a kilo. No belts makes no sense. Yeah. I got the fact they both got their O's, but no belt is pointless. Yeah, as I said, mate, I haven't really heard a lot about the fight in the last few weeks since it was announced. So can't wait for it, of course. But I'm with you. I think there's much bigger fights out there than Tank versus Ryan. And for what it's worth, I think Tank Davis wins that fight against Ryan Garcia. A few more comments before I go there, guys. We're been going, was it 8:36 at the moment? So Carl says, Shakur Stevenson is the real deal. Yep, 100% agree. Jules says, keen to hear more about your Olympics experience. Surely some good stories that come out of it. Well, mate, next week, if you want to ask some questions about the Olympics, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. We won't do it tonight, of course, but if you want to bring it up next week, more than happy to ask any questions about the Olympics, Commonwealth Games, World Championships, whatever you want. One thing I will say, though, Jules, even though the Olympics is the pinnacle of everyone's, I suppose, the sporting career, and obviously it's the highlight, but also low light for me as far as my Olympics experience. Obviously, the highlight as far as getting the Olympics is what every boxer or athlete aspires to be or to get to, and I did that. Low light as far as the result goes. I was totally out of my depth at that stage of my career and got towed up by the Kazakhstan fighter. I've become a better fighter because of it, but for me, it's a bit of a highlight and low light. But my highlight, to be honest with you, more than anything, is winning the Australian title. I won 6 of those in my career, and for me, I still hold that close to my heart. To be the best in your country, I know that might sound a little bit silly considering the Olympics are out there. Great overall achievement, but for me, the Australian gold medals for me still holds pride of place, just for me. But as I said, if you want to ask some questions next week, happy to put aside a little bit of time. Thanks, Mr. Pads. Big up. Appreciate it, mate. Shakur, we've got there. Andy Shakur, power looked improved at lightweight. Yeah, he did, didn't he? Looked improved at lightweight. His power looked looked a lot bigger, a lot stronger. I think he's going to be the lightweight. Give him 6 to 12 months. I think when he gets his shot, he'll win it, and it will be very, very tough to beat. And then he'll probably go up to light welterweight after that too, I would think. All-Star, Ben, you agree? Shakur's phenomenal, 135. I think that's his weight, mate. I think he's going to be very, very tough to beat. Yeah, Kishon also is amazing. He looked good on the undercard as well. He did good body shots too. He bangs in hard underneath, doesn't he, Kishon? So I think he'll be a player down the track. What do you think of, who was it on the undercard? Jared Anderson, the heavyweight. 14-0, had the third round knockout of George Arias. 18-0 he was. Calling out Anderson, by the way, calling himself out as the best heavyweight in the world. Come on, mate. There's a time and place. And that is not the place to say that you are the best heavyweight in the world. One thing to say you aspire to be the best heavyweight in the world and you want to fight the best heavyweights in the world, but to say you're the best heavyweight after 14 fights, when you've got Fury and Joshua and Usyk and Wilder and Ruiz and all these and Joe Joyce and all these guys out there, you're going to say you're the best heavyweight in the world. Your trainer should have slapped you right there and then. Ryan got rehydration clause 2, can't go over 10 pounds. Yeah, I don't like that, Andy. I think it's one thing to say you're going to fight at 136. Take the rehydration clause out of that. That's piss poor. That is really piss poor for me from Tank Davis. And it's just turned me off him a little bit. I don't really care who wins, to be honest. I'm not really a big fan of either. But I think that's piss poor at that level, Andy, that you've got to put that in there. It goes to show you're not 100% that you're going to win. All right, Kershawn, definitely the goods. Thumbs up, certainly is. Pad salute. That's from Carl as well. Big Baby Anderson needs to step up the competition. Yeah, 100%, mate. Yeah, look, there's no doubt he's got some talent, but that's just insulting to the actual best heavyweights in the world for you to come out. I know he might have said it just to talk it up a little bit and get his name out there, but he just made himself look stupid, if you ask me. Andy says top rank Kershawn called out PBC Frank Martin, but likely, yeah, very unlikely, I would think. Andy, I don't think that fight happens soon. Andy again says, what do we got there, mate? Jared Anderson, Jarrell Miller to see who the real big baby. I was just going to say, is another big baby I've just seen recently. That would actually be a pretty good fight. Probably won't happen for a while. I think they're both undefeated, so don't think it's going to happen in the short term. But maybe one of them gets a belt. Who knows? Anderson KOs Miller, in my opinion. Miller way too slow. I do agree. I'm not saying he hasn't got ability, guys. I think Anderson, look, it definitely shows he's got the goods, or potentially got the goods. But to say you're the best heavyweight in the world, come on, mate. You know, just as I said, there's a time and place, and that wasn't the time or place. Andy says Anderson versus Effie Adja. Yeah, no, it should be a quality fight. Yep, I agree. Is it going to be made? Would be a quality fight, I would think. But yeah, I don't know. I think they'll continue to match Anderson pretty lightly, I would think, up until he's had probably 20 fights, I would think. So, but we'll see. Just some other things, guys. I did see Canelo Bivol looks like it's going to be at 175, which is, I think, a really credit to Canelo. He said, no, if the rematch happens in September, it's going to be at 175, which is interesting. Fury Ruiz rumoured in the UK for summer of 2023, which is mid-year, so that would be good to see. Top rank card was more showcase card. Yeah, it probably was, Andy. I agree. Jarrell Miller just KO'd the Big Daddy Brown. Certainly did. Lucas Brown. What is he doing, Carl? I'm not quite sure what Jalalov, how you pronounce it, is doing. I'm not quite sure, mate. Fill us in. Guys, I reckon that's going to do it for this week. I think we've just gone over a little bit here. We might get on to some other stuff next week as far as the box rec schedule. I think we've just gone over the Kamakeo show coming up this weekend. So all the best to all concerned there. Just because I'm not a fan of the card doesn't mean I hope they don't all have a successful night and Kamakeo make some dollars and get to win under the belt. I did see, actually, before we go, the following week, I'll go over that next week too. I see that Jalen Tate is fighting Kai McKenzie. That's a ripper fight. That's on the Arc Entertainment card, I think it is. So we might discuss that next week. But yeah, that's a good fight, Jalen Tate and Kai McKenzie. So really interested to see that one. Appreciate it, Carl. Good show. Yep, I really appreciate you guys logging in and keeping the show going. Geez, that's an hour and 15. That's an hour and 45. That's gone really quick. So and it's all due to you guys. If you haven't checked out the latest edition of What's Your Verdict, it is the Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Jose Luis Castillo fight, the first fight from 2002. It's on at the moment, so What's Your Verdict? I did think that Mayweather won. Currently, the Instagram post, if you want to get in and vote on that, is showing 74% to Floyd Mayweather was the rightful winner in the first fight over Castillo. I have had a little bit of feedback from a few different people telling me I'm wrong, and that's cool. Just do it in a respectful way. We all disagree, we disagree on these types of things. No drama saying I'm wrong. but do it in a respectful way, and happy to have a bit of a conversation. But always putting up the link. Yes, putting up the link next week. I will, mate. I think is that what you're talking about there, mate? I'm assuming. Thanks, Andy. Thanks for joining in, mate. Really enjoy all the banter with you guys, especially what you have with each other. So we might start stretching it out a little bit longer as we go, but at the moment I've got a few things to do. So really appreciate again, everyone, guys and girls. And next week, let's talk some boxing. See you then.